Climate change has really affected the rivers of Georgia over the last couple of decades. I noticed that the water levels of these rivers has been rising and causing some flooding, which can affect the safety and cleanliness of the water. To learn exactly what is causing all of this, I spoke with the Water Policy Director of the Chattahoochee River Keepers, Chris Manganello.
What we know is happening with the river, for example, is that we've had some pretty significant droughts. They seem to happen about every 5 to 8 years. So we had a really bad drought in 2007 through 2009, followed by pretty dramatic flooding on the Chattahoochee River. And then we had another short drought in 2012, and then another one recently in 2016. So what we've been seeing is that the droughts seem to be a little more frequent. They tend to be a little bit drier and deeper, and then they tend to be followed sometimes by pretty significant rainfall. So we have we have more concentrated periods of rainfall where the flooding can be pretty dramatic on the river. So for example, last year was the wettest year. 2018 was the wettest year in Metro Atlanta's history. Again, we kind of had a drought. We could say it was in 2016. So these kind of events seem to be happening pretty frequently, kind of these really dry periods followed by these really, really wet periods. Those are the types of things we've seen on the river. And certainly the problem with drought is that it can stress water supplies for drinking purposes. But what it can also do is if there's less water in the river, when we discharge all of our waste water that's been treated by the waste treatment plants, if there isn't enough water in the rivers during a drought, it can make the assimilation of that waste more difficult. So that's where you see kind of the direct relationship between a water quantity problem, not having enough during drought, with also having a potential water quality problem. If you don't have enough, the adage is, the solution to pollution is dilution. So if there isn't enough water to dilute the pollution, then you have a water quality problem. So that's where the drought is where it's really obvious where these water quality and water supply issues kind of come together.
This has not only been a problem for the rivers inland, but also for the rivers along the coast of Georgia. I talked to the executive director of 100 Miles to see how climate change has affected rivers along the coast and what steps they are taking to seek change.
The biggest thing that we've noticed on the coast is sea level rise, especially when it comes to storm surge and just full moon flooding. It doesn't even have to rain, and we have streets that you can't get past on the coast and properties that flood. And it's not just minor damage that is being caused, it's significant damage, not only to our structures, but also to our economy, in that people can't get to work, people can't leave their homes, and people have to pay the price of living close to the coast and having their homes flood every so often. We really have to go local government by local government to get them to address sea level rise through the local zoning ordinances and local setbacks. And so we're working to do that. We're starting in Glynn County, and then we're moving to Chatham County. And then after that, we'll see what happens next. But we really need to work in the counties where there are developable beaches. So Chatham County has Tybee, Glynn County has St. Simons, Jekyll, and Sea Island.
With all of these problems in the rivers caused by climate change, there have been a number of advocacy groups trying to push change in legislation. One of these groups is the Georgia River Network, based in Athens. I spoke with Executive Director Outgoing, Dana Skelton, to find out what legislation they are trying to change and what ideas they have for new laws to be put in place.
We're working on some different laws for the storage of coal ash, proper storage, as well as how it's transported safely when it's coming across state lines. We're trying to write some good language for stream buffers. There's nothing in the legislature right now, but working on some new language to protect streams that could eventually be introduced and voted on, but that probably won't be this year. And then there's something right now going on with nuisance law, where agricultural operations, there's certain parameters around when you can say an operation has become a nuisance and is affecting your property. And so there's some legislation right now we're working on with that to try to make sure property owners are able to protect their property from bad operations.
This is Kevin O'Shea reporting for Vanguard News.